Welcome to the video on monetary policy. The previous video was on fiscal policy. Warm up. What are two types of economic problems the Congress and the Federal Reserve can help fix? Remember, we talked about fiscal policy and what the Congress can do in the previous video. I will put up some selections in an Edpuzzle right now. Choose a good answer. Essential question. Why does the Federal Reserve change interest rates? We will come back to this question at the end of the video. What is the Federal Reserve? The Federal Reserve is the Bank of the United States. One thing it does, this is the building in Washington, D.C. There are Federal Reserve banks around the country. They print money. This dollar bill says Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, Missouri. Take out a dollar bill or a $5 bill and look and see where was it printed. How can the Federal Reserve help the economy? The Federal Reserve helps the economy by lowering the interest rate for borrowing money. This means borrowing money costs less. So, for example, if at a 10% interest rate, to borrow $100 would cost $10. So if I borrow $100 today, in 1 year, I would have to pay a bank or a person who lent me that money $110. At a 3% interest rate, to borrow $100 costs $3. So at the end of a year, I would have to pay back the $100 plus $3, $103 for the privilege of borrowing that money. Right now, at the time I am recording this video, the interest rate on a loan from a bank to buy a house is somewhere around 3%. If this interest rate goes up, it makes it, I would have to buy a cheaper house because it costs more money to borrow money to buy a house. I would have to buy a smaller house. If it's up, if the interest rate goes down to 2% or maybe 1%, it costs less to borrow money. I could buy a bigger house. Why does the Federal Reserve lower interest rates? The Federal Reserve can lower the interest rate during a recession. Remember, a recession is a period with high unemployment when many people lose jobs or don't have a job or are afraid to go find a new job if they are unhappy with their current job because they are afraid they will not find one. So the Federal Reserve can lower interest rates during a recession. This helps the economy grow because people can borrow money to buy a house, to buy a car. They can borrow money to start a business like a restaurant, a store, a coffee shop, a landscaping business, any type of business, a clothing store. How can the Federal Reserve help the economy? The Federal Reserve helps the economy by increasing the interest rate for money. This makes borrowing money cost more. Why would the Federal Reserve want to increase the interest rate? That would be during a period of inflation. I don't see that word here. During a period of inflation. Here we go. Why does the Federal Reserve increase interest rates? The Federal Reserve increases interest rates during inflation. This helps the economy to slow down. During periods of inflation, prices are going up. When people get their money from a paycheck, they want to spend that money immediately. They go to the Walmart and they buy things. If the government increases the interest rate, it is more difficult to borrow money to buy things. And so people will buy less, and hopefully prices will go down. How can the Federal Reserve help the economy? If the economic problem is a recession, a time when people don't have jobs and they need jobs, the Federal Reserve can lower interest rates. This makes borrowing money cheaper. It helps the economy grow. People can't, like you, your family, me, we can borrow money to start a new business. We can borrow money to buy a house. We can borrow money to buy a car, to drive that car to a job and help the economy. During periods of inflation, the Federal Reserve can raise interest rates, increase interest rates. This makes borrowing money more expensive. So people borrow less money because it's expensive. This helps slow the economy down. I will not buy a new car to go to work. I will not start a new hamburger restaurant. I will not start a coffee shop. I will not quit my job as a teacher to start a landscaping business because it is expensive to borrow money, and this will slow the economy and reduce inflation. Okay, so let's repeat the essential question. Why does the Federal Reserve change interest rates? The Federal Reserve changes interest rates because, answer that question now. Okay, that is all. Thank you for participating. I hope you've learned something about fiscal policy and how the Congress can affect the economy. And now monetary policy, how the Federal Reserve can influence the economy. Goodbye.